Notre Dame had its annual Blue Gold game this past Saturday. We've been talking about it a ton at blueandgold.com and right here on our YouTube channel, but I figure let's get an outsider's perspective. So we're bringing in On Three's JD Piquel. You can find him on the On Three YouTube channel. Does a fantastic job talking all things college football, and he does talk about Notre Dame a good bit. So you can get that national talking head perspective from JD. Folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are new here. So JD, we're going to dive into it. Just kind of your general takeaways from the Blue Gold game. What'd you think about what you saw inside Notre Dame Stadium on Saturday?
Yeah, there's a couple of phrases I live by just in life. One of them is you don't lose spring. You're undefeated coming out of spring, and that was no different. I think if you're a Fighting Irish fan, you didn't get to see Riley Leonard, which of course is a little bit of a bummer with him not playing in the spring game. But overall, I think the biggest takeaway for me watching this offense was there's going to be a little bit of the extra pop, a little more home run capability. They obviously went to the portal and upgraded there at wide receiver. Jeremiah Love is coming into his own. I tweeted it out earlier when I was rewatching the condensed version of this game. He is a lot of fun to watch with the ball in his hands. How dynamic he is, how smooth he is, how many things they can do with him, whether they want to split him out, whether they want to hand it off to him. A lot to be excited about from a playmaker perspective. And then on the defensive side, you and I were talking before this, Mike, it's tough to get a tremendous gauge during the spring because if your name's not Kenny Minchey and you play quarterback, you're not live. You're trying to probably not kill your teammate when they go over the middle. So there's a little bit of a different level of intensity there, you would imagine. But overall, I think this is a really well put together roster and excited to see what they look like when you add in the crown jewel that is Riley Leonard into that offense.
Yeah, it'll be certainly interesting. They start off with Texas A&M on the road, so we'll get a much better feel of that defense as well as the entire team that opener. But let's go to the quarterbacks. I'm sure you're intrigued with regards to Leonard, as we all are, because we just didn't get to see him a ton this spring. And when we did see him, he was wearing a boot. But the three quarterbacks, I thought they all looked pretty good. They're all a little bit different, but all impressive in their own right. What do you think about those three guys?
Yeah, Kenny Minchey kind of is the one that maybe jumps out the most upon the rewatch, just because he is so dynamic, because he had that long touchdown throw to Micah Gilbert and all the things he did that were effective. So that was fun to see him and what he brings to the table with his legs. You're curious, maybe you have a better gauge for this than me, Mike. I'm curious if there's not maybe a role somewhere in there for Kenny Minchey throughout the season, even though he won't be the guy. Don't know. But CJ Carr also, I think you tweeted it out, Mike, the level of electricity within that stadium when he walked into the game and you kind of got your first look at him. Extremely poised. He was really impressive to me just in terms of how controlled he looked. Yes, it's just a spring game, but still, that's a lot of eyeballs on you, both in person and on the broadcast. And so I thought he handled that moment really well. And Angeli also, I thought, did a great job running the offense and probably provided some confidence for you if something does happen to Riley Leonard. And you're also probably feeling good about his Sun Bowl performance as well, where he ran the offense. So a lot to be excited about within that quarterback room. Feels like it's a really high floor group.
Yeah, it's a high floor group, and it's about as deep as Notre Dame's had at quarterback in quite some time. I mean, if Carr's your QB4 and he looked as polished and prepared as he did on Saturday, you got to feel really good. I mean, JD, he's someone who practiced with the team in December for preparing for the Sun Bowl against Oregon State. So it's not your typical true freshman. He's got the bloodlines with his last name being Carr. So yeah, there's a ton to like. I'm very excited about the Notre Dame quarterback rooms. Definitely giving us a lot to talk about in this off season. What else kind of stood out to you in the game? Position groups, players, what else kind of popped to you in watching Notre Dame?
We touched on it a little bit to start, but I think this wide receiver group is going to be superior to anything they've had there since Marcus Freeman's been the head coach, which is, of course, a small sample size, but still Chris Mitchell having a long touchdown catch. Micah Gilbert, I believe he had 2 touchdown catches. Yeah. He was phenomenal. Jaden Greathouse gets another year under his belt. Also the tight ends, Eli Reardon. I mean, that's a big target over the middle, kind of the juggling acrobatic catch. He gets across the end zone, or gets across the goal line rather into the end zone. there's a lot of weapons, it feels like, for Riley Leonard to take advantage of. And the whole thing, I mean, you go out and get one of the top transfer portal quarterbacks. That's awesome. Like, great headline, fun for us to talk about, but it's all for naught if you don't have the weapons around him to maximize that potential. And I don't think that'll be the case with Mike Denbrock running the show, with those weapons I just mentioned, and some young pups that I think are going to even, hopefully come into their own as we get further and further into this season and into this offseason, rather. A lot to be excited about. So that the playmakers out wide really, I think, stuck out the most to me.
Before we started recording, you mentioned Jordan Botelho. Why don't you? It's an interesting figure. Don't hear a lot of national talking heads talk about Botelho. So what are your thoughts about him?
He just has so much pop off the edge. And I feel like he's been one of those guys where I think you saw him in the bowl game. I guess it was almost 2 years ago now against South Carolina. I think he was like defensive MVP in that game. Like, he has so much potential when you have, heard the rumblings about what he's done behind closed doors and just the physicality that he brings to the table. So I'm still waiting on him to take that next jump and be a guy that goes from just being a solid, edge rusher to being someone that's like, hey, we actually have to really game plan for number 12. Just the what he could be to me is so intriguing. And this would be the heck of a year to put it together if you're him, with some new pieces on that defense and the secondary being as solid as it is, and the offense having the potential that it is. You add in a game record of sorts. If Jordan Botelho ends up being that would be a nice little extra accessory to this Notre Dame roster.
Yeah, completely agree. I think, the defensive end spot, like Botelho and RJ Oben, who they brought in from Duke, like if those guys, if they pop this year, like I think the linebackers are going to be pretty good. We'll see what happens with Ben Morrison. Knock on wood. That his shoulder, he's fine and he comes back healthy, but you get Xavier Watts back. It's a really intriguing team across the board. I mean, but hey, this is the time. Everyone wins spring. If you go across the board, there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic right now about Notre Dame football. Would you agree with me there, JD?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And it's something we talked about, I think, a fair amount leading into that Mike Denbrock hire. Like, every single offseason, it feels like Marcus Freeman, he doesn't just say challenge everything. It's not just something that looks good on a T-shirt and sounds nice at a press conference. Like, he's actually made the point to challenge everything. You have your quarterback coming back 2 years ago in Tyler Buckner. You say, no, we go to the portal to get Sam Hartman. Okay, well, we got a new situation this upcoming season. Do you stick with your depth chart, or you go and get one of the best quarterbacks from the transfer portal? You go out and get one of the best offensive coordinators in Mike Denbrock. He did video game numbers last year at LSU with Jane Daniels. So all these pieces sort of work together to where, if I'm a Notre Dame fan, I'm encouraged that, one, we have a head coach who's being aggressive and standing on business with what he talks about, challenging everything, push the envelope, all those things we just mentioned. And then also the defensive side of the football, with that being his baby and the attention they've shown to the offensive side of the football, like, it's looking right now. Again, it's spring, but it looks like those pieces could fit together in a really, really exciting way. And you mentioned it, they're going to have a couple of games on that schedule where they'll have a really, really good chance nationally to make a case for themselves, whether it be A&M, the Florida State game, the USC game. Like, there's going to be some afternoons here in the fall on some Saturdays where Notre Dame is prime viewing for everyone in college football.
All right, folks, that's On3's JD Piquel. Check him out on the On3 YouTube channel. Hit the thumbs up on this video. Check us out at blueandgold.com. And as always, we will catch you guys next time.